I'm going to do two things in today's video. Number one is I'm going to change the way that you think about food. And number two is I'm going to tell you the weirdest story you've ever heard in your life. And, I've told this story to other people who are like, oh my God, how could you do that? It sounds awful. And I was like, you know what? I was getting up every day with 5, 10 traps around my building, hoping they were all full of carcasses. And for me, this one sacrifice, you may say, in order to not have this problem again and not have to consider this animal my enemy, was totally worth it, and it worked. And if you're new to this channel, welcome. My name is Magdiale Walmark. I'm a 2-time James Beard nominated chef for plant-based cooking, a certified biodynamic horticulturalist, and a Food Network competition cooking show champion in Clash of the Vegetarians. And in this channel, I explore ideas in esoteric philosophy, alternative medicine, and modern science that I profoundly believe can be applied to our practices in the kitchen in creating super healthy meals. If you clicked on this video because you were looking for an instantaneous solution to whatever issues you were having with your diet, your health, or your weight, then on one hand, I can't help you, and on the other hand, I can. I don't have a pill I can give you to solve that problem, but I do have the information that you need in order to change your mindset and thereby step on to the path of super healthy lifestyle and thereby change your life forevermore. So I start with the information. I have to lay the foundation of what a super healthy lifestyle is, and then I will be cooking in the kitchen and giving you the skills and the techniques that you need in order to create healthy, delicious, nutritious meals. Now, the foundation of super healthy cooking is, number one, I'll say it 1,000 times, proper mindset. You have to be in the proper mindset before you start anything. And of course, that applies to cooking and eating. And that proper mindset has to be maintained for an extended period of time so that you can continue to practice these lifestyle choices that you're constantly reinventing every moment with your mindset. But in addition to that, and the beauty of this is that you can also pour your visions and your aspirations, your goals into your cooking preparations, into your meals, and thereby aid in your manifestations. And I have a video on exactly how that works that I'm going to give you the link in the description below. And you see a little bit of the demonstration right here, and I highly suggest that you watch that. So you're not only hearing it from me, but you're also learning about the actual science of what I call intention transfer. So that's number one. Before you start cooking, get into the proper mindset. Number two, what I call agricultural literacy. You have to develop, you have to do some research, read some books, and develop an agricultural literacy so you know how your food is produced. You understand these systems that produce your food, and then you can make healthy food choices. Without this knowledge, you are really taking your chances, because even with those certification stickers on the products, if you don't know what those certification stickers mean, then you're still groping in the dark and just choosing things based on some very superficial knowledge. I do have videos on what I believe is the best farming system for producing healthy ingredients, which is biodynamic agriculture. But back to agricultural literacy. The bottom line is you can't pull blood from a stone. So no matter what skill level you are at cooking, even if you're the finest chef in the world, you cannot pull blood from a stone. And what I mean by that is you cannot take inferior ingredients. And what I mean by that, when I say inferior ingredients, are ingredients that are produced by agricultural systems that suck. And you can't take those ingredients and make delicious food out of them. On the other hand, you could be not the best cook in the world, but if you have really nice ingredients produced by good organic and biodynamic farming systems, then someone may think you're one of the finest chefs in the world. Because in addition to choosing the best ingredients, you watched some of the videos that I'm going to make, and you followed my principle of simple preparations. So, as I say in my other videos, if you take an ingredient and you apply a simple technique to it and you do it properly, then you will have a beautiful and delicious meal, even if it's one ingredient. It's really very, very simple. I say simplicity is a very complex thing, meaning that looking at something and understanding what is the best preparation for that is actually a complex idea that I will share those theories and principles with you and then apply a very simple technique. So, number 2, law or principle of super healthy cooking is agricultural literacy, and the law itself is that good nutritious food comes from fertile soil and only fertile soil, and the more fertile the soil, the better the ingredients. Now, number 3, principle or law of super healthy cooking, which I've done a whole video on the laws of super healthy cooking, but I'm bringing them back here again today because I could introduce them at the beginning of every video to remind you that before you start cooking, 1 and 2 must be in place. And then number 3, I've already kind of mentioned it, is that good ingredients speak for themselves. Simplicity is a complex thing. Simple preparations are best for really good ingredients. And there will be videos on how that is done, and I'll let those also speak for themselves. I want to give you a little bit of a mind shift, because when you hear this story and some of the information I'm about to tell you and how it applies to food and food production that's actually being done, not some fantasy land out there about how it could be done or some fairy tale in some old book that I read about some weird way of producing food. This is one of the oldest codified farming systems in the world, falls under principle number 2, and something you should know about, because when you find biodynamic ingredients, you've hit the jackpot, because they are the best. Organic ingredients are good, biodynamic ingredients are better. So now, sit back, children. I'm about to tell you the weirdest story you've ever heard in your life. So the way that I came upon biodynamic agriculture is I had a garden and I was tired of killing pests. And I was looking for a solution. At that time, I owned a restaurant, and it was in a very old building in Columbus, Ohio, in the oldest part of the city. And because it was in the oldest part of the city, now brace yourselves, it was also the most rodent infested section of the city, because the rodents had had the most time to establish their underground tunneling systems up into the neighborhoods, businesses, and houses. And when I bought the restaurant, I did not know that there was an ongoing rodent problem. And when I discovered it, I immediately hired a company to come in and solve my problem. 5 years later, I still had the same problem. So I fired the company and I decided to take matters into my own hands. So I did, and nothing changed. But then I came across biodynamic agriculture and I read this book, Agriculture Course, The Birth of the Biodynamic Movement, a series of lectures compiled into a book given by Rudolf Steiner in Koberwitz, Poland in 1924 in response to what at that time was an awareness of deteriorating environmental conditions. And when I was reading this book, and it was already blowing my mind, I came across this weird part. And it said, if you have a mouse problem on your farm, because this book was talking about farm problems, not restaurant rodent problems. So if you have a mouse problem on your farm, then capture one of these rodents and skin it. And then when Venus is in the constellation of Scorpio, burn the skin in a fire. And then when the skin has been completely consumed by the fire, gather the ashes of the fire and sprinkle it around your area where you don't want the rodents anymore. And I was like, Eureka! I'm going to give it a try. I mean, I had tried everything. And it was to the point where I woke up every day and the first thing on my mind was killing rodents. And it became kind of a nightmarish experience. And I was willing to try anything to solve the problem. So I tried it. I trapped one of the rodents. I put it into the freezer. And then when Venus was in the constellation of Scorpio, and I did some research to figure this out, I built a fire. I was living in the city at the time, so I was building this fire in kind of a clandestine manner. And I burned the rat skin. And I'll tell you, I could immediately feel some kind of weird energy, this kind of weird shift. And after the fire was completely burned out, I gathered up the ash and I sprinkled the ash around the perimeter of the building. And for 5 years, I never saw a rat again. Believe it or not, it's true. My son was with me. He's not here now, but I can bring him on here for verification. He's a very truthful guy. He would never lie. I'm telling you, that was the moment that I decided that I was going to study biodynamic agriculture and knew that it worked. And to my understanding, the way that it works is that there are forces in the ashes that the rodents and other animals, for that matter, can sense, because the procedure can be done with other animals if you wanted to keep them away. Some biodynamic farmers do it for deer. And that when Venus is in the constellation of Scorpio, it's a time of reproduction, and the animals sense that this is a bad place to reproduce and they stay away. And, I've told this story to other people who are like, oh my God, how could you do that? It sounds awful. And I was like, you know what? I was getting up every day with 5, 10 traps around my building, hoping they were all full of carcasses. And for me, this one sacrifice, you may say, in order to not have this problem again and not have to consider this animal my enemy, was totally worth it, and it worked. And that alone, whether you believe me or not, the bottom line is that there is something to it, and it does work. And not, perhaps you can check it out for yourself. One time I was considering actually creating a biodynamic pest control service, because it is really more humane. I'm not didn't spray poisons around the building. I didn't perpetuate the problem with rat traps and gizmos and glue traps. I mean, I walked out one day and there was a glue trap there and the rat was biting its leg off in order to escape. I don't mean to horrify you and disgust you. This channel is supposed to delight and entertain you, not horrify and disgust you. However, that was the situation. Okay, I hope that you've enjoyed this video today. After this video, I'm putting on an apron and I'm going to make some cooking videos so you can start cooking and get the skills and resources that you need to be on the super healthy highway, which is paved with the laws of super healthy principles. 1, proper mindset. 2, agricultural literacy. Good food only comes from fertile soil. And 3, good ingredients speak for themselves. Simple preparations are best. I'll see you soon. Thank you for watching.